Close your eyes for just a moment and listen to the ambient noise surrounding your life, even inside what you believe is the quiet sanctuary of the home. There is a hidden, relentless war being walked against your central nervous system. You hear the microscopic vibrations of electrical up- appliances humming inside your walls. You register the distant, low-frequency rumble of urban transit passing through the street outside. Your eyes are constantly subjected to the artificial flicker of the blue light screens, the aggressive geometry of sharp plaster corners, and the sterile neutrality of synthetic materials. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep feeling mysteriously unrefreshed. You sit in your living room feeling a persistent, low-grade sense of anxiety, and you cannot logically explain. You assume this chronic mental fatigue is simply the price of modern life, the natural result of a demanding career, financial pressures, or digital overload. But you are about to confront a revolutionary scientific truth. The primary executioner of your mental well-being is not your calendar. It is the very architecture of the space you inhabit. We like to treat our houses as passive, innocent boxes designed to merely hold our belongings and shield our bodies from the rain. But under the cutting-edge lens of a new scientific discipline known as neuroarchitecture, space is never passive. Your home is an active neurological catalyst. Every ceiling height you stand beneath, every light wavelength that hits your retina, every material texture that your skin encounters, and even the view framing your windows is actively rewriting your brain chemistry. Your home is either continuously triggering your evolutionary survival alarms, pumping stress hormones into your blood, or it is acting as a profound biological medicine, calming your nervous system and healing your mind. For thousands of years, humanity lived in absolute geometric harmony with the natural world. Our biological software that was sculpted inside an ecosystem characterized by organic curves, shifting natural lighting cycles, rich tactile textures, and the complex acoustic frequencies of forests and waters. But in a historical heartbeat, we dug our ancient biology into dense, artificial concrete grids. We lock ourselves inside boxes of sterile drywalls, expose ourselves to uniform artificial glare, and completely sever our connection to the living earth. We design cities for economic efficiency, but in the process, we engineer a silent epidemic of spatial trauma and mental exhaustion. In this 40-minute deep dive, we are going to open the revolutionary blueprints of sanctuary architecture. We will strip away the commercial trends of interior decorations to reveal the biological mechanics of how space heals the human mind. We will investigate the mathematics of the Cathedral Effect, discovering how ceiling heights alters the physical pathway of human creative thoughts. We will decode the secrets of Circadian Lighting Engineering, revealing how hotels and sanctuaries manipulate light spectrums to cure chronic insomnia. We will analyze the evolutionary neuroscience behind biophilic design, proving why surrounding your body with organic geometries can lower your heart rate in seconds. And finally, We will hand you the practical, master-level principles to transform your current living space into a high-performance emotional sanctuary, a true medicine for your soul. Welcome back to our channel. If you have ever stepped into a specific room and felt an immediate, unexplained sense of profound peace wash over your body, then you have already experienced the power of neuroarchitecture. Let's unlock the secret science of the space that heals us. To fully comprehend how physical space alters the internal chemistry of human thoughts, we must begin by analyzing the most fundamental dimension of any room, its vertical volume. When you walk into a house, your eyes naturally judge the width of the house and the placement of the furniture. But your subconscious mind is instantly processing a much more critical coordinate, the distance between your head and the ceiling. For decades, developers and commercial home builders treating ceiling heights as a purely economic decision. To maximize profits and minimize heating costs, the vast majority of modern residential apartments and suburban homes built across the globe over the last half-century were standardized at a rigid height of 8 feet, or roughly 2.4 meters. To the industrial economic minds, this height is perfectly sufficient for the average human body to stand and move without hitting their head. But to the human brain, an 8-foot ceiling functions as a silent psychological constraint. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, a visionary environmental psychologist named John Mayers Levide pioneered the series of groundbreaking experiments that would completely revolutionize our understanding of spatial cognition. This phenomenon is known today across Neuroarchitecture laboratories as the Cathedral Effect. Mayers-Levide placed hundreds of human objects inside rooms with entirely identical floor plans, identical furniture, and identical lighting. The only variable altered was the height of the ceiling. One room featured a standard 8-foot ceiling, while the other was elevated to 10 feet, or roughly 3 meters. The subjects were then given a series of complex cognitive tasks, puzzle-solving problems, and psychological evaluations. The scientific data that emerged from these tests was astonishing. When human beings are positioned inside a room with a low compressed ceiling, their brains automatically adopt a highly specific style of cognitive processing known as concrete typographical thinking. In a compressed space, the mind becomes exceptionally proficient at analyzing highly specific details, identifying micro errors, processing mathematical data, and focus locking on immediate repetitive tasks. Why does this happen? Because on an evolutionary biological level, confinement triggers a subconscious survival reaction. When a space feels enclosed, the brain narrows its focus, treating the immediate environment as a role requiring high situational awareness and logical precision. Conversely, when those same human subjects were moved into the room with the 10-foot ceiling, their style of thinking experienced a radical transformation. The brain abandoned concrete details processing and immediately activated its network for abstract conceptual reasoning and relational creativity. Under a high ceiling, the human minds gain the ability to see the bigger picture. connect entirely unrelated concepts, think innovatively, and experience freedom of thoughts. The vertical volumes above the head literally acts as a fast spatial release mechanism for the cognitive capacity of the human brain. The evolutionary explanation for the cathedral effects is deeply elegant. For millions of years of hominid development, standing under a vast unblocked vertical canopy, whether it was the open sky, the high ceiling of a massive forest grove, or the grand vault of natural stone covered, signal an environment of absolute perspective safety. A high vertical space meant that you had room to move, space to breathe, and an unobstructed field of vision to evaluate opportunities. The open space above your head naturally encourages your consciousness to expand, giving rise to curiosity, imagination, and abstract thought. When we force the modern human mind to spend 90% of its life locked inside low-ceiling concrete boxes, we are effectively keeping our cognitive processing system inside a permanent state of confinement. We're forcing our brain to think in small, detailed, and reactive loops. This is why, if you are an artist, a writer, an entrepreneur, or anyone whose life depends on creative innovations and strategic vision, working inside a standard commercial apartment can feel like a form of intellectual suffocation. Your environment is actively suppressing your brain's ability to think outside the box. Became the physical box you are inside is simply too small. But the cathedral effects does not only dictate how we think, it aggressively dictates how we feel. Further neurological studies using electroencephalogram (EEG) caps have proven that low ceilings actively amplify the production of high-frequency beta waves in the brain, the specific neural patterns associated with anxiety, hypervigilance, and cognitive stress. When the ceiling presses down on your visual field, your subconscious registers a sense of restriction, which slowly raises the baseline level of cortisol. Understanding this spatial mechanic allows sensory architects to perform incredibly illusions of vertical release, even inside standard modern apartment where you cannot physically alter the height of the concrete slab. Elite designers use specific lines and visual continuities to trick the primitive brains into experienced heights. They paint ceilings in Utah matte finish that absorb light and completely hiding the physical boundaries of the surface. They install custom floor-to-ceiling vertical draperies that run completely unbroken from the topmost edge of the wall down to the floor, forcing the human eye to travel upward in a continuous, uninterrupted vertical line. They use low-profile furniture that sits close to the ground, maximizing the volume of empty air floating above the body, but strategically manipulating the visual geometry of the room. You can successfully disable your brain's confident alarms, clear the cognitive RAM of your mind, and unlock the high-performance creative capacity that only exists when your consciousness is granted the freedom of an expanded vertical horizon. Once the structural volumes of the sanctuary has been designed to release the mind from cognitive confinement, the focus of neuroarchitecture shifts to an environmental elements that possess absolute dictatorial control over the biological health, the spectrum of light. We live in a modern society that views light as a simple, functional utility. We buy cheap, mass-produced light bulbs based purely on brightness, screw them into our ceilings, and leave them turned on from the moment we wake up until the moment we close our eyes at night. We flood our homes with uniform, high-voltage white light that remains completely static throughout the day. But to your biological clock, this static lighting environment represents an act of chemical warfare. Deep within the human retina, scientists recently discovered a unique layer of specialized photoreceptor cells known as intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These specific cells have absolutely nothing to do with your conscious vision. They do not help you see shapes, colors, or objects. Instead, their sole evolutionary purpose is to continuously monitor the environment for one specific variable, the presence of blue light wavelengths, which fluctuate between 4060 and 4080 nanometers. These specialized cells are directly hotwired to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master biological clock hidden inside the hypothalamus of the human brain. This master clock regulates your entire circadian rhythm, dictating the exact hourly production of vital neurotransmitter, metabolic enzymes, and sleep hormones that keep our body alive and your mind sane. For 10,000 generations of human history, this biological clock operates in perfect, flawless harmony with the movement of the sun. At dawn, when the sun cracks the horizon, the light travels through a thick layer of atmosphere, scattering low-energy red and orange wavelengths across the sky. As the morning progresses and the sun reaches its highest point at noon, the light pierces directly through the atmosphere, creating an intense blast of high-energy blue light wavelength. At this exact moment, your retinal cells detect the blue light and send an immediate high-priority emergency signal to the master clock inside your brain. It is noon. Stop all productions of the sleep hormone melatonin and flood the bloodstream with cortisol, dopamine, and adrenaline to maximize human alertness, strength, and survival focus. As the afternoon fades into evening, the sun sinks back down, the blue light wavelengths completely vanish from the sky, and the atmosphere is once again filled with the soft, low-frequency orange and crimson tones at the sunset. The master clock registers this shift and realizes that the day has ended. It suppresses cortisol production and begins aggressively pumping melatonin into your system, lowering your blood pressure, slowing your heart rate, and preparing your mind to enter a state of deep, self-repairing sleep. But when you step inside a modern, poorly engineered home, this beautiful biological choreography is started. When you turn on a standard, high-power white light downlight or look at a laptop screen at 9 o'clock at night, you are subjecting your eyes to a massive blast of synthetic blue light wavelength. Your conscious intellect knows that it is nighttime, and your calendar tells you that you need to wake up early tomorrow. but your master biological clock is completely blind to your calendar. It can only read the light spectrum hitting your retina. The intense blue wavelength from your sailing bob sends an absolute signal to your brain starting it is high noon. The sun is directly overhead. The production of melatonin is instantly aborted. Cortisol spikes. Your body temperature remains elevated and your central nervous system is forced into a state of unnatural hyper-alert vigilance. When you finally turn off the lights and attempt to sleep, your body is completely out of chemical alignment. You experience chronic insomnia. Your brain cannot drop into the deep, slow-wave sleep cycles required to flush out metabolic waste, and you wake up the next morning facing a severe deficit of dopamine and serotonin. Over months and years, this systemic circadian disruption develops into chronic clinical anxiety, treatment-resistant depressions, and extreme emotional exhaustion. Your home light bulb is literally rewriting your mental state from the outside in. It is where the transformative science of circadian lighting engineering becomes the ultimate spiritual medicine. A masterfully engineered sanctuary architecture completely rejects the primitive concept of static, uniform lighting. Instead, it builds an interior lightscape that dynamically mimics the natural evolutionary rhythm of the sun. During the active morning and early afternoon hours, the sanctuary utilizes automated smart lighting arrays that deliver crisp, bright white lights with high concentrations of blue wavelengths, replicating the sky at noon. This intentional lighting layer stimulates the dopamine production, sharpens your cognitive clarity, and raises your daytime productivity to its maximum potential. But the moment the clock strikes 5 in the afternoon, the sanctuary initiates a profound automated lighting shift. The high-energy blue wavelengths are completely phased out of the environment. Every single sailing light is turned off. The illuminations transfer the lower perimeters of the rooms, low table lamps, floating baseboard tracks, and warm wall swatches poisons well below the horizontal lines of human sight. The color temperature of every light source drops significantly, locking strictly between 1800 and 2400 Kelvin, the exact thermal frequency of a natural wood-burning fire or fading golden sunset. Circadian lighting design turns your home from a chaotic source of neurological disruption into a precise medical shield that protects your biological clock, regulates your internal chemistry, and restores your natural human right to deep sleep and emotional stability. Once the sanctuary has optimized the vertical volumes of space and calibrated the biological wavelength of light, it addresses an architectural dimension that speaks directly to our longest historical lineage, our connections to the organic forms of nature. This brings us to the core science of Biophilic design and the revolutionary principle of fractal neurogeometry. We live in a modern era dominated by a style of design that architects call Euclidean Cartesian geometry. Look at the layout of any standard urban apartment blocks or suburban development. Everything is constructed out of hand. Rigid 90-degree angles, perfect straight lines, flat undulating grids, and smooth, featureless surface of concrete and glass. This geometric vocabulary is incredibly cheap to mass produce and exceptionally easy for industrial machines to construct. But to human visual system, these synthetic landscapes represent a state of profound alien isolation. In the late 20th century, a brilliant sociobiologist named Edward O. Wilson, introduced the world to the biophilia hypothesis. Wilson argued that human beings possess an inherent genetically hardwired biological need to connect deeply with natural systems, organic material, and living organisms. We do not spend 200,000 years of evolutionary development inside a square concrete cell. Our entire visual cortex, our depth perception, and our emotional processing system was structurally optimized to process the rich, fluid, and complex geometries of the living wilderness. When we force our eyes to navigate an artificial landscape built exclusively out of sharp 90-degree angles and flat, featureless surface, our visual system experiences an immediate persistent form of stress known as visual monotony. Because straight lines and sharp corners do not exist anywhere in organic natures, your brain treats them as unnatural, anomalies. The eye struggles to find an organic focal point, causing the oculomotor muscle to constantly tense, which alerts the amygdala that something is fundamentally wrong with the environment. The solution engineered by sanctuary architecture is not simply about placing a few decorative plastic potted plants in the corner of your rooms. True Biophilic design operates at a deep structural and geometric level, utilizing a mathematical concept known as fractal geometry. In nature, structures are almost never straight or perfectly flat. A tree branch, a coastline, a cloud formation, or the intricate veins of a leaf are all built out of fractals, repeating self-similar patterns that look identical whether you zoom in close or look from a great distance. Human evolutionary biology has spent millenniums processing these specific mathematical ratios. In fact, neuroscientists at the University of Oregon discovered that when the human eyes look at the fractal pattern with a mid-range density, a ratio known to physicists as statistical fractals between 1.3 and 1.5, the brain's visual cortex instantly drops its processing strength by up to 40%. This is an extraordinary biological discovery. Looking at the natural fractal patterns against immediate physical sensitive for your nervous system, your brain waves automatically shift from high-frequency beta waves to smooth, relaxed alpha waves. The geometry itself calms your heart rate and stabilize your breathing because your visual system instantly recognizes that it's inside a balanced, organic environment. Sanctuary architecture massively infused these fractal neural geometries into the very materials and structure of your home. Instead of building with a flat, featureless plastic panels, it utilized rich, deeply grained natural timbers like raw oak or walnut, where the organic wood grain display natural growth fractals. Instead of choosing smooth, synthetic tiles, it selects unpolished travertine stones, raw slate, or clay platters that preserve the deep tactile irregularities and fractal weathering patterns of the earth. Furthermore, Biophilic designs integrates what architects call the dynamic of nature directly into the interior ecosystem. designs homes around the movement of light and shadow using textured window louvers or natural tree branches outside the glass to cast shifting organic shadow patterns across the living floor as the wind blows. It introduces a acoustic presence of moving water through small, minimalist interior fountains built from natural stone basins, creating a continuous low-frequency sound mask that blocks urban noise while gently lowering the viewer's blood pressure. When you wrap your home in this rich mantle of biophilic neurogeometry, you are performing a profound act of environmental reconciliation. You are giving your ancient biological software the exact geometry data it needs to feel safe, connected, and at peace. You turn your walls into three-dimensional extension of the natural matrix, creating a space where your visual system can finally rest. Your stress response is neutralized and your spirit is continuously nurtured by the timeless geometry of life. Now that we have completely analyzed the private design blueprint of neuroarchitecture, dismantle the calculation of vertical volumes, and unmask the biological power of circadian lighting and biophilic geometry, we must confront a vital, deeply practical realization. This extraordinary technology of spatial medicines does not belong exclusively to high-end luxury research or expensive architectural laboratories. You do not need to spend millions of dollars rebuilding your home from the ground up to experience the life-changing benefits of a psychological sanctuary. The true power of neuroarchitecture is that it provides you with a highly accessible, scientific manual to transform your current everyday living space into a high-performance engine for emotional healing. Our modern urban apartment and suburban homes have unfortunately become extensions of our psychological exhaustion. We accept low, compressed rooms that suffocate our creative thoughts. We allow high-voltage white bulbs to destroy our biological clocks and ruin our sleep. We live surrounded by rigid, sterile Cartesian geometries that introduce real monotony and keep our central nervous system in a permanent state of low-grade alarm. We are paying expensive monthly rents to live inside structures that are slowly draining our energy. To break free from this containment and execute the art of sanctuary architecture inside your own home, you must begin by reclaiming the vertical volumes of your mind through visual vertical release. Look closely at your current living or workspace layout. If your ceiling is locked at the standard 8-foot height, you can completely dismantle the feeling of confinement by manipulating the visual lines of the room. Immediately paint your ceiling in a flat, ultra-matte white finish that absorbs light, making it exceptionally difficult for your eyes to track the physical boundaries of the surface. Remove all short, heavy drapes that breaks the wall into fragments. Replace them with custom curtain tracks that run completely unbroken from the topmost edge of the ceiling down to the floor. Choose low-profile, minimalist furniture that sits close to the ground, low sofas, platform beds, and low-slung coffee tables. By lowering the baseline of your furniture, you dramatically expand the volume of empty air floating above your body, fooling your primitive amygdala into experiencing the prospective freedom and cognitive clarity of high-voltage cathedral. Next, execute an absolute revolution within your home's lightscape by applying the principle of Circadian Lighting Engineering. walk through your home and throw away every single high voltage, cold white, fluorescent bulb currently screwed into your ceiling fixtures. They are the executioners of the sleep and emotional stability. Replicate the natural movement of the sun by establishing two distinct lighting layers for your day. For your active morning and early afternoon workspace, utilize high-intensity, bright white bulbs that provide a high concentration of blue wavelengths to maximize your cortisol efficiency and sharpen your cognitive focus. But the moment the clock strikes 5 in the evening, initiate a total ban on blue wavelengths, turn off all overhead ceiling lights. Instead, rely entirely on low-level perimeter lighting or plate table lamps of low floor lamp fitted with thick linen or clay shades that diffuse the light into soft, warm orange glow. Ensure that every evening light source is locked strictly at a warm color temperature between 1800 and 2400 Kelvin. By dropping the physical heights of the light sources and shifting the spectrum to 5 light tones, you allow your brain to activate its natural melatonin production hours before you go to bed, guaranteeing a deep, self-repairing sleep cycle that cures chronic anxiety. Finally, elevate the material and geometric reality of your space through tactile and fractal calibration. Stop buying disposable, mass-produced furniture finished in smooth, artificial plastic or fake veneers that cause visual monotony. When selecting elements that your skin directly touches every single day, prioritize the raw, texturized, and enduring honesty of organic material. Save up your financial resources to purchase a solid wood dining table that showcases the natural, raw imperfections as fractal growth lines of real timber grains. Cover your walls with a texturized lamp wash clay cluster paint that absorbs lights and creates soft, microscopic shadow patterns across the surface, completely eliminating optical frictions. Transform your bedroom into an organic cocoon of healing. Replace all synthetic polyester fabrics with deeply textured raw organic materials, heavy linen sheets, chunky hand-woven cotton blankets, and raw wood rugs. Introduce the soothing mechanics of nature into your daily life by replacing a small, minimalist natural stone water fountain on your desk, allowing its low frequency acoustic mass to erase urban noise while lowering your blood pressure. When you deliberately modify your home with these vertical lines, shifting light spectrum, tactile materials, and natural fractal geometries, you are doing something far grander than simple interior decoration. You are actively participating in the ancient, evolutionary history of human domestic engineering. You are rewriting the physical metric of your space to shield the sovereignty of your consciousness from the relentless pressures of the modern digital empires. You transform your home into more than just a box to sleep in or hold your assets. You turn your space into a living, breathing spot to your companion, a majestic psychological sanctuary that actively quietens your mind, gently balance your chemistries, and hold your soul in a state of absolute sovereign peace. We have traveled a magnificent, deeply transformative roads together over the last 40 minutes, dismantling the cutting-edge secrets of neuroarchitecture and exploring how the physical geometry of space directly alters the chemical pathway of the human soul. We have discovered the cognitive mechanics of the Cathedral Effect, unmasked the medicine of Circadian Lighting Engineering, and explored the biological miracles of biophilic design and fractal neurogeometry. Across every single one of these design chapters, we are confronted with a beautiful, deeply liberating realization. A true sanctuary has never actually been about the arrogant display of expensive architectural luxury or superficial wealth. This high ceiling was never just engineering. The shifting light spectrum was never just electricity. The fractal wood grains were never just decoration, and the stone fountains were never just plumbing. The sanctuary is, and has always been, the ultimate material manifestation of absolute human self-preservation and trust. It is an architectural look at the fragile, exhausted biological reality of the modern human being and says, I know you're tired. I know your attention is distracted by the noise of the digital empire. Step inside my boundaries. Let go of your defense mechanism and trust your biology to my life. I have designed a space for you to heal. Your home is the ultimate physical canvas where you hold the absolute sovereign powers to recreate this beautiful architecture of empathy for yourself and the people you love. By learning to master the hidden art of neuroarchitecture, stacking biological features of light, volume, textures, and geometry within the mind, and the chaos of civilization, you reclaim the complete control over psychological destiny. Thank you so much for spending this deep, intellectual time with us today. Exploring the hidden psychology of space, building and developing content is what sucks us. High density of knowledge and analytical thinking is always a challenge on TikTok. The sensitivity, shared aesthetic sense, and supports of discerning viewers like you are my most valuable source of motivations and resources. If this documentary completely shapes the way you view the dimension of your room, and if you want to discover more hidden architectural and behavioral systems that silently direct our psychology, history, and modern lives, please share this film with a friend, an interior designer, or anyone who is currently trying to build their own private sanctuary. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss our next spatial exploration. We have many more architectural secrets to unlock together. Until next time, keep your eye wide open, design your personal boundaries with deep intention, and remember, the most beautiful structure you will ever build and the ultimate sanctuary you will ever own is your own internal peace of mind. Goodbye and see you in the next deep dive.